Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. You are about to join a frequency that will open your mind, expand your heart, and activate your spirit. Thank you for joining Kelly Meehan, Spirit Baby Medium and Master Energy Therapist. Kelly believes in the power of the Spirit Baby. She speaks with babies in spirit before life, in the womb, and after life. She supports, teaches, and guides others to tune into the intuitive and mystical parts of life for greater wisdom. Join her in meeting your soul baby and build your connection and relationship with deep love and trust. Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio with your host, Spirit Baby Medium, Kelly.
Welcome to episode 148, September 30th, 2022. My title of this month and day is Real Stories and Experiences with Spirit Baby Communication and Conversations of the Heart. Are you ready to tune into real experiences and conversations? What next serves you on the path towards Spirit Baby connection? And of course, as always, I have special guests today, and I'd like to talk in the beginning a little bit, but there's so much to talk about, and I want to bring it more into this space. And I don't know if we should put a trigger warning. Sometimes people do that, but I don't usually do that because I feel like triggers are not bad. Triggers are where our energy wants to kind of shift, unwind, and be present to. And so this episode will go deeper into the stories around birth loss. Whether you are in early loss, later loss, don't run away from this episode. You want to stick around and hear and connect. And so I want to welcome my special guest here, Danny. You there?
Hi. Hi, Kelly.
I almost was going to call you Coco. How sweet was that?
Very sweet.
I'm like, wait, that's not her name. I'm like, okay, girl, we're getting all, shifted here already. I will also have another guest jump in later, but we're going to talk. Danny, we had a lot of questions. We've connected in the past through Spirit Baby Collective mentorship, and I want, maybe even share a little bit of your story that she has had a loss of her daughter. But yeah, I want you to talk just a little bit about your, as much as you can. Take a breath. I know this is big, so whatever feels good for you. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor being on your podcast. So my baby was born on June 30th, and she wasn't breathing. The labor seemed to progress okay, but I was having a hard time, and the midwives never recognized the emergency that was happening, and I didn't feel supported at birth, and I felt like that was a neglect, but you reflect on those things later. My baby was born not breathing. She was intubated, and we spent 8 excruciating days in the NICU, and she could not make it. She could not bounce back from what happened to her during labor, so she was deprived of oxygen, and the cord was wrapped around her. And I know most of the time this isn't an emergency, and babies do get well, but my baby didn't, and we lost her 8 days later.
Yeah, take a moment. I know that, again, this is, we're not going to sugarcoat anything, and I'm not going to, go ahead, sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm trying not to, I'm also trying not to cry on your podcast.
No, that's what I was going to say. It's okay. We'll take breaks and little breaths in between. This is so important, because I can really feel your energy, and here's what we're doing in this podcast. I'm kind of tuning into Danny right now as I would in a private session, but of course there's bigger parts in there that I'm not going to, I don't know if that could be exciting but we're going to get as intimate as we can as Danny volunteered to be in this space. And I don't believe in coincidences. I felt like when she reached out as I was seeking volunteers, I felt really good to have you as a part of. So thank you for being here and opening your heart to share. And what you can, what you will be sharing, I feel like, is not just your energy, but your daughter's energy with really hundreds and thousands of people that know that space of grief, that sense of loss. And yes, it is something, in your life that you will always, come back to. And as I was saying earlier, like, we're not sugarcoating, it's about love and light, let's move on. It's really about being in the depths of the grief at times, but also moving into the exchange of that light child connection that now, you have been initiated and really kind of pushed into this mediumistic world as the medium. with connection, right, with your daughter. And there will be days where you feel grief, guilt, fear, even just something we were talking about earlier, and I want to kind of jump into there is, you know, was my baby gonna, and maybe I know a lot of people ask this, was my baby destined? Was there some contract of death? And it really depends on what spiritual belief and philosophy you really believe in, because some people will say yes, the majority of people will say yes, right? And then maybe there's some that say no. And so how I view it, here's what I've noticed, being somebody, how many years now? I wasn't that kid that was like, I see dead people. That was not me. And I feel like after puberty is when my abilities really shifted, and there is something in that energy for some people. And then I realized at 15 years old that the world is not what I thought it was, and that there's this in-between energy of psychic space, energy implants, energetic objects. Everything carries a vibration, and it speaks, and I hear it. And I've had, since 15 years old, I'm 47, I've had this many years to practice it. And so what I've discovered in the areas of death, even on my own personal journey in connection with others through loss, is that I want to say there's doorways of energy. For we come in, whatever this unwritten contract is, I don't feel like things are set out in stone. But that's my philosophy and what I've seen and experienced. I feel like they're doorways. And what I mean by doorways is you can have maybe a near-death experience, or you're like, oh my gosh, I would have died, or some accident or sickness, and then you didn't. And maybe it's even like, wow, how did you not? Because I feel like when we're in these spaces that we do have, on one sense, our soul is very conscious and wise. And we either go, okay, I'm leaving this reality to move into another one, or I'm staying. And there's no judgment of when it comes to baby loss. It's not like, oh, well, my mom and dad are no good, I'm leaving. It's never anything shallow, low vibration. And so I feel like babies live in the womb space, in the uterus. Sometimes that is their life. That is their life lived. And that's a hard one to take in. And it doesn't mean that there won't be medical negligence or sickness or some outside forces, but we have to then trust in that it's okay to question, did I do it right? Can I have done it better? Is this quote unquote my fault? Who do I blame? That's all grief. And that's really normal. And to be with that is really, really valuable, because we can't control another soul's, reality and their purpose. We can keep, our children safe in certain ways, but their soul has their own journey, and it's a very hard one for parents. I'm a parent, I know. I want to control my children's reality all the time, but I also know that I have to let go and let them be free to become whoever they want to become and whatever that timeline is for them. And yet again, not easy. And so how do you feel, even if I said, I just gave you this option, Coco's energy coming in, going, this was my life lived. Like, it's a hard one to sit with, like to really connect in that way. Why don't you introduce your daughter's name? I'm calling her Coco, but you would introduce her name for us.
Her name is Joanna, and my son gave her the nickname Coco when he realized he's going to be a big brother, and we all call her Coco. And I have a feeling she really likes it, and she's very connected to it and to him too. And that's he says it's from coconut, and so that's why.
Oh.
He was like, we're going to name her Coconut. And I'm like, we might need to come up with a better name for the passport. He was like, I think coconut works.
Oh, it's funny because my son, when I had my second son, he wanted to name the baby Meat Baby because he liked meat. But I thought, you know what? I don't think Meat Baby's a good name. He also said Ocean, which was kind of nice. Ocean was nice, but I'm not an ocean person. I was like, I can't name my kid an Ocean. But I love that. That's so beautiful, Coco, Coconut. But even as we talk about her, here's what I'd like to do is I've already created an invitation with her and you to come into the space, and that's how I work. Because when I'm listening, I'm sensing, feeling, connecting with inner vision, And she does really like Coco, and I think we said that earlier because her energy really lights up in that space. And when I see an expression of her energy right now, she keeps showing me these beautiful colors. It almost reminds me of a sunset or sunrise. It's like peach, pink, and gold. I don't know how you perceive that energetic connection of color, if that comes to you, but there's something in that. Do you receive colors?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm sure I will.
This is
I've
okay.
I've always loved those colors. I always loved them.
They're so beautiful to look at, and I feel like she's showing it as an. So here's the thing with colors. When I use the word color, psychic, color connection, that colors is a form of communication. It's, and whatever colors come to you in meditation, or if you see them a lot in the world, there is a message in that, right? And you just have to receive it. Yeah. Danny, I think right now where you're at with your grieving and healing, and you have trauma. And so you just need to, you don't have to overanalyze, think about it. You can just literally sit, breathe in your heart space. I'm receiving whatever comes through without over focusing on it, right? That's the hard part, is over like, oh, it's got to be something, or I got to look for something specific, because I feel like when your energy goes there, to me it feels like, it just feels like mental energy, and it feels tiring. And then you're scared. You feel like, what if I mess it up? Right? It's like, what if I'm doing it wrong? And there's something in the free-flowing energy of just her energy is so beautiful. It's so connected with you. It is connected with her brother, especially through dream energy. That's what she says, through dreams. And so, how old is your son?
5 years and 9 months.
Oh, okay. I thought he was older. So yeah, he comes more in dreams, but also when he's drawing or coloring. There's something when he's on art and paper that she comes around, and I feel like she influences him. Whether he's wherever or not. Say that again.
That's very possible, because he does a lot of art. He drew her, and he said the other day he talked to her, which I want to believe it, but I also really.
He did.
Yeah.
Really accept that.
Yeah.
Just go. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay to go. Oh.
Yeah. I was very excited and embracing it, and we're talking about where her soul is and everything. I just really want to want to develop that for me too. As you said, I'm thinking about it too much. Yeah, I'm positive I will. That's why I said not yet. I'm not seeing it color, but I will.
You will. You know what it is? You're still healing right now with when there's trauma energy in people. It feels so activated, and a lot of you keep going into the past a lot because you're trying to make sense of what happened, right? And sometimes you're doing it in your body, disconnected from the thought space. It's like you're, and that takes, it takes space and energy to come back into the body, and not to deny anything, because you have to watch in your heart space. Sometimes anxiety gets really triggered and kicked up, and then you're ungrounded. So to me, it's almost like a daily practice of what is bringing you back into your body, because it's not just about, you, and it's like, whereas, you may not feel like you're in connection with her energy because you're feeling ungrounded. And that's okay too. But I do want you to know that she's with you, and anything you say, she's connecting with you. But here's the thing, she will give you signs and symbols, but she's not going to force you into them. She says she speaks to you telepathically, and she also comes to dream space with you, because that's what's serving everybody right now. That's why she's doing it this way. Because she's not going to, her energy's so gentle. She reminds me of a little girl that likes wearing cute, shiny shoes and a dress. That's her personality. That's her energy. And that's who she is. She will always be that. And so one of the things, we knew we had a lot of questions in the email and stuff. I was like, I want to hear, like, what other things are coming up on this journey as you are, healing and building this connection, because that's what you're doing. You're like, your child's on here on Earth, but you're still in relationship, and there's some other experience, moving through.
Yeah. Well, I understand the spiritual part and that we are ancient and the soul never dies. And some days I embrace that, that's what keeps me going. And some days, as you said, the trauma and the grief are just too much. And sometimes, I do get breaks from the grief, and then I feel a little guilty even, like, why did I let go? But, it's not really letting go. And then sometimes I feel like we both needed probably this. I never thought in a million years I would need this. But I wonder if this was always in the cards for us, or is it the decisions we make that shape our destiny? I know the decisions are very important. And are some major things like this one, are those the lessons you come into life? And that always happens no matter what? Or as you said, are there doorways and this can happen or that could happen? Because I know energy is fluid and it can move and it can change. I know my baby was struggling for 8 days in the NICU, but I had hope, we'll see a miracle. And so I wonder, like, are some things meant to happen, or is it us that drive them? That was one of the things.
Go ahead.
And then another thing that, like, I feel, break from the grief, and then I feel like a crushing guilt, because I felt like I was doing everything possible physically. I was eating really well, going to the chiropractor, craniosacral therapy, but I feel like energetically I was getting upset over small things, or I wasn't really in line with my intuition. And now, in hindsight, I did get signs, I don't know, from my guardian angels or from my intuition or from her or from my other, relatives across the veil, some little signs that, would turn the things around, even though one thing was leading me to the other, one after the other. But, I didn't pay attention to the signs because I wasn't very in tune with myself and with my intuition. So that's where I'm at.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Take a breath. I know we were just talking about that. I know Jackie jumped on, right? You're here?
Hi.
Hi. Well,
yes,
just give us a minute. You could stay here. I'm going to introduce you in just a moment. But Danny, just
take
going
your time.
into thank you. Danny, just going into what you said was so powerful, and something we were just talking about, that you're allowed to bring forward. Is this a destiny? Is there a contract? Is this just we have creative paths that we're literally changing and forging in each moment? I'm going with that one, by the way, but that's me. And then what does that mean? Because we are connected to lineage and ancestral things, that we're working through energies. And what I've noticed in a lot of losses, especially stillbirth or even right after, sometimes there is that lineage or ancestral thing, and it really has nothing to do with what you've done wrong. Like, I eat well, do the acupuncture, I love people, like, isn't that enough? Because that, on some level, it's enough to be who you are in that, but it doesn't, it doesn't change the journey of the soul, of that soul and that connection. And there, yet again, there's going to always be a lot of different questions, because what I've learned in the death space, even trained in death midwifery, there's no final answers for things. And that's where, when you move into the death space more and more, and you really understand that transformative aspect of it, then it becomes almost normal that there may not be some final, what does this look like? What is this supposed to be? But when we're in a lot of grief, we get upset and go, no, I need something. And that's totally healthy as well. And so, I know you're not the only one that has these questions, right? We have these things that come up. And yet, that's the work of you, of like, oh, I did something wrong, or it has to be a certain way, or what comes up, Mexican Aztec? Why does that come up around you? What does that mean to you?
Mexican Aztec?
Yeah.
Interesting. There is a really beautiful trip next month in Mexico. It's a spiritual event that I really want to go. I don't know if I'll be able to. I don't know if that has any connection to it.
Oh, it feels so connected with her energy and your energy and like a lineage. You have a lineage or some passed over in that, and maybe
I
that's why
don't
you're
know. I
being
always,
called.
I
Yeah.
always loved Mexico. My husband and I went there. I think that was our first trip that we took more than 15 years ago, and we love it. And we've been there several times. But besides that we love it. Maybe I've never done a past life regression or hypnosis, so I don't know for sure. But I love the
Well, not
people and
even,
the land.
it could past life, but it also could be more in the lineage, could be in the family tree. It's hard to say, but there's some energy there. It feels really good, the Aztec energy with you. And I always feel like, honestly, the Aztec energy is very galactic. It kind of is beyond human, I think, connections, right? And so
Yeah.
there's a calling in there for you. I would, keep like receiving it, even if you don't know. It's like, I don't know. And you're more of an empathic person, like an empath, like a feeler and
Yeah.
sensor. And you can use that to, like, as you're tuning in, to your daughter's energy in different ways. And you can even say to her, give me a sign, give me an animal. How about that? Give me an animal, and I'm just going to go out in the world. I'm not going to find the animal. You're just going to show it to me, and I'm going to be open enough to see it, right?
Yeah.
That's the part. It's like, I'm going to be open enough to see it. And you can't just go, oh, well, we can't get into, we have to be careful of like, no, you need to prove it to me. You have to do this or that, because then it sets yourself up for self-sabotage, right? And then you're feeling like not good.
I felt like she was sending me signs of dragonflies, and I see them in the most random
there you
places.
Go.
Yeah.
There
and
you
I feel a
go.
connection to them.
Then pay attention to that. And also, you're going to be pregnant again at some point.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope so.
She's going to help you with that, with her sister, probably. I feel like it could be a sister, but here's what she says. It's not her. But she says it's my twin, which I'm thinking is very interesting. And so something is in the works. Nothing is being pushed or rushed, but there is another energy with you connected with her. And why I say it's not her is really important, because, I know that's a big one with a lot of people. Like, I want it to be the baby, or because we have to really look at Coco as her own original unique soul. Doesn't mean she won't have fragmented spirit soul connections with other of her siblings, but also just honoring the moments that she had, even though I know it was highly traumatic to give birth in that way. And I'm going to activate some energy here a little bit, but when I see her looking at her connection with her body, she didn't feel as much as maybe you think she felt. And she didn't need to. She didn't need to feel a lot of things. And I feel like you intuitively did know something was up, but of course you're doing your best to intervene and do whatever. But things were, and here's the important thing, because this is a really valuable, I feel like, is that your intuition does work, by the way. You are intuitive. And here's the thing. The only thing that really blocks us from intuition is fear or ignoring it, but it's there. And sometimes you're really not meant to know. And that's a hard one, because when my brother passed away 5 years ago, his wife told me I should have known. And I'm like, how would you have known? Because he was young and he died of a heart attack, which is very, you think of young people don't die of heart attacks, and it was in their house, and I suspect in the bed. It was never told to me, and it's a long story, but she's like, but he didn't feel good, and he was, he had food poisoning, right, which can be very heart attack, but she's like, I should have known, but I was like, if you should have known and you would have intervened, it would have been the path story. But I feel like it wasn't like, oh, but of course, how do you not go there? And my point is, she loved him. They were connected, and they were both intuitive people, to different degrees. But yet, I feel like we're not supposed to see all those things, right? We're really not. And we have to let go into that. Remember, it's like, you are your own soul. Your child is their own soul. Even your partner and earth children, and that's where the inner work comes. That's where your inner, deeper, mediumistic self is going to expand more and more. And I do feel like I feel like Coco treads she's so in your energy, but if you can't hear her at times, she's not gonna yell at you. She doesn't want to do that. Because you need gentleness right now, and she knows that. She said she wants to bring you something in December. Do you celebrate Christmas?
Yeah, we're doing my son's birthday right after Christmas.
Okay. Oh, okay. I was like, keep your eyes open, because she said there's a present coming, there's something. But I feel like she's like, again, she's not going to throw herself at you and make you like see things. But you're in really deep places, Danny. You're like, the things you're sharing, it's like you're exploring, you're taking it slow. And of course now is a really a powerful time of self-compassion too, that you have to be so self-loving. Not just for you, but for your Earth Child, for partnership, and then even for Coco, because her intention wasn't to make you feel like heartbreak. It wasn't whatever anxieties want to come up. That's not the life you're meant to live. But for now, it's so new and different, and your trauma is still healing. You have to take it very slow and very gently,
Yeah, I felt like, some days I feel like I failed her. She was coming to us.
Yeah.
And then
you're allowed to feel that way. You're allowed to feel that way. You know what
I couldn't protect her.
But it doesn't make it true, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make it true to but I'm not going to take that away from you, because you're a mother who has a heart that is such compassion, and you may have to just cry through that energy at times and be with it. And then see where life wants to take you.
Yeah, I don't want to ignore it, because it's part of the human experience, I hope this is the last time I go through so much pain. But I just have so much love for her.
Absolutely, and she has so much love for you.
And I hope she knows it.
I pulled some Spirit Baby Oracle cards for you, for her. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, in the beginning, I was like, I want her to come back. But, even if she does eventually, I know I was so to recognize each other. But I will always remember her as her own being.
Yes.
If she decides she wants to be physically with us again, I welcome her.
You will know. Yeah. You will know. You are instinctual in this time of the initiation into a space you never wanted to be initiated into. You're going to do your best, really, in honor of the feminine, in honor of your daughter and, and your family. And so every day is a different moment. And I know you know that. You're just being reminded. And I want to share with you, I told 2 cards with Coco's energy, and really the 2 messages she shares. The number 1 is, I love you, I love you, I love you. Remember, our love is truth, light, and joy. And the second one is, I communicate with your intuition through daydreaming and imagery. We talked about dreaming. There's a lot of dreaming energy. And then to be with that. And there's so many more things we can expand into, I know, in conversation. But I'm going to shift over to Jackie. But I want you can stay on the line if you'd like. Or if you feel like you have to go, it's up to you. But I thank you. And this is going to be today's. This is going to be shared today. Talk about moving fast. I was going to do it live, but I felt like the energies can be a lot with a lot of people, And I want to hear your energy and Coco's energy more clearly. And so thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for welcoming me and my Coco. We're honored.
Absolutely. So we have to take a deep breath and holding the energy and space of love, compassion. I know those that are tuning in all around the world have maybe experienced loss themselves or have been in the profession of supporting loss. And of course, we know that the collective energy of sending love to Danny and Coco is strong and felt. And so I'm reaching out to all of you that are tuning in to just send a little bit of sparkling light, a little dragonfly love, maybe a little peachy pink gold that, everybody is blessed and finding their way to deeper transformation in this world of just great mystery and uncertainty, and yet strength and courage. So Jackie, how are you?
Hi, Kelly. I am. I'm okay. It's I feel like this Mercury being in retrograde has definitely spun our household in a little loop.
Is that what that is? I'm feeling it too.
It's coming out of retrograde on Sunday. I'm looking forward to
nice.
that shift of energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. It's really wonderful.
Thank you.
When you reached out. Yeah.
I today was like one of those weird kismically connected and aligned days, and somehow I saw your little post, and I was like, she posted this a while ago, but it can't hurt to reach out. And then your email, of course, came through like hours after you sent it, and I was like, Mercury's in retrograde, and that's why things are delayed. But like I feel like cosmically, I was meant to connect with you today, and I'm super grateful for this opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, it was so interesting yesterday because I was running around, and I was like, I'm going to email everybody tonight. And then what happened, which was so strange, I swore I had another email, and it just disappeared. Or I was like, did I imagine it? And I'm like, no, there was two people. And then your email came through, and I'm like, well, did I see that before it happened? Like, it was so I was so confused. And then I was like, oh, I remember your energy and your partner. So I remember your energy. I was like, oh, wait. Oh, yeah. And so I thought this could be really nice. Let's connect and like see where you're at, what's going on. Whatever you feel, don't remember this is Spirit Baby Radio. So everybody's tuning in to whatever you feel, whatever you feel connected to share. Okay.
I'm really, really open, and that's I feel like that's important for at least my part of my journey, is to be really vocal and sharing, just especially with the climate in the United States right now, with Roe versus Wade, and also the fact that we're not so open about loss. I appreciate sharing my grief, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but opening up doors for other people to share as well, instead of feeling like they have to go through it alone.
Absolutely.
But the way I found you was after our first loss of our daughter Zoelle. I was desperately searching for somebody to help me connect and connect with her, and I started listening to your amazing podcast. And your podcasts have changed my wife and I's life like so tremendously. Our trajectory on this earth is interesting, and you played a big role in it. So, but I found your podcast, and I put myself on a waiting list for a partner reading for my wife and I. And so I'm with my partner is a woman, and I present as a woman. I am a woman, and so obviously we need some help to conceive, as we're missing some vital parts. And at the time, my wife got pregnant very easily on her first IUI try, and we had bought 8 vials of the same donor sperm. And after the loss, and that was on my second IUI, you said to me, you're like, your uterus is strong, your love connection is really good. I feel this baby energy. You actually felt 2 baby energies. Who knows? Still waiting. But you're like, but I don't know if you and the donor vibe. And I was just like, well, that's not even something we're going to play with, because we already bought these vials of sperm. And if we're going for this, we really want our children to have some connection. And I didn't really think about it again, to be honest. And then I got pregnant again and lost that baby rather quickly. Like, technically they'd call it a chemical pregnancy, but to me, a loss is a loss. And that baby's name is Phoenix. And then this past January, I got pregnant on our last vial of sperm. And we before that, leading up, I had listened to your podcast, and you interviewed this woman, Vanessa, who works with lesbians, and supporting, because it is different, like whether you're going through fertility or not, when you add in that we are a lesbian couple. I remember having to educate the first fertility clinic that we were at about how it needed to work and had to be different because we were two lesbians and not a heterosexual couple. And it felt, I listened to your podcast with her, and I was like, thank you, Kelly, for showing me the way. And she ended up running a program, and we ended up being a part of this really beautiful 8-week program, fertility program that she ran. And at the end of it, part of the, like, I was like, oh, I'm totally in, when she was like, and you'll get a reading with Kelly and spirit baby cards. I was like, done. and as my wife says, anytime that you can spend time with Kelly, you just do it.
Aww.
You sign yourself up. But
that was fun.
We went through different meditation stuff and kind of getting yourself in a good mindset and tapping into our intuitive self, little bits of what you give. But I felt ready, and my wife and I were calling this baby in quite strongly. And we brought this baby in. I got pregnant, and there was definitely lots of anxiety, and I was using emotional freedom tapping for that. But at our 20-week scan, we found out that he had something called chylothorax hydrop. And we went through 2 weeks of going to Columbia Hospital, and they were draining the fluid. So chylothorax hydrop are pockets of fluid, and he had a giant pocket of fluid in his chest that was pushing over his lungs and heart. And miraculously, somehow his heart fully formed and was functioning, but his lungs didn't. And he had another pocket in his stomach. And we did this draining technique where they were putting a needle through my belly, through the amniotic sac, and then draining the fluid out in hopes that his lungs would slowly develop. But sadly, after doing those procedures a few times, we quickly realized that the fluid was coming back way too quickly, and then his lungs were just never going to develop. So we made a really hard decision to terminate the pregnancy. And that also came right around the time of the turnover of Roe versus Wade.
Gosh. Yeah.
And, for the beginning, I just sat with it and was like, I'm going to fight for him for everything. And then I sat down and actually, talked to him, and I was like, you tell me what you need us to do. You want me to do surgeries, we'll do it. Or if you want me to let you go in peace, we'll do it. And he essentially, what I heard was that the surgeries were uncomfortable and really didn't feel good, and that he wanted to be let go in peace and with love and with light. And so I made a mother sacrifice of letting go of our baby so he didn't have to feel pain.
Yeah, take a moment. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, take a moment.
Big
deal. I do hear a little boy around you, and I was like, I wonder if there's a boy there.
We do have a 3.5-year-old son, but he's sleeping. But energetically, there's probably my son's around. I just started to sense him again this past week. I feel like from the time I lost him, things went kind of black. But lately my grandfather passed away, and I talked to my grandfather to ask him to help bring and connect us with a baby. And as soon as I said that, I started seeing all these robins. And my grandfather used to sing me the song called Red, Red Robin. So
oh my gosh.
I appreciate red robins.
Yeah.
And then this week, our lawn has just been covered, and only our lawn, in like gazillion red robins. Like, and it's not even red robin season. And like 20 of them, and all these red robins have been around. So I take that as a sign of like my grandfather, and I feel like my grandfather is now taking care of our son Lyric. And I don't think our son Lyric's coming back. I remember with our first loss, I was so hopeful and caught that she was coming back. And I feel so clearly that he's not, and I'm not sure why, but I guess I'm not supposed to know the answers.
Well, I think that's a really good point that you share, is that sometimes it's like we were talking about earlier, it's like the being able to receive in that psychic space, but then not overanalyzing and like going inward and go, okay, but maybe I don't know. But this is where we have to really, right, be conscientious. Like, do I have to push into the mental energy, or there's that other space, right? It's like, oh, this is the place, and I'm just kind of moving with it, going with it. But I did know, I feel a little boy energy, and it feels like it's in spirit. That's why I wasn't sure if you were having a boy or girl. But I was like, oh, there's a little boy there. Maybe we'll talk to him. And then you said boy. But I also heard him say, I am free. He wants you to know I am free and I can breathe.
Oh, I'm
and
so
you're
glad.
right.
That's
the breathing thing was a big deal to him. Because before you even talked about it, I was hearing him going like, oh my gosh, like, it was overwhelming to him to not be able to catch the way he's able to breathe. And it felt like a lot. Like, it felt like a really big job that he wasn't sure he was going to be able to do, right? I mean, it's hard to know. But he wants you to know I'm free, is what he said specifically.
Yeah.
And he's very joyful, connected, and loving, yeah.
That makes me so happy. It was so weird. You know, I was 5.5 months pregnant. So not, pregnant enough that people know you're pregnant, but not, the 9-10 months. But I remember feeling, and this is before we found out, I would feel like I was drowning. I personally was feeling like I was drowning, and I was like, why am I feeling like this? And when we got the news of the Hyalozora high drops, I was like, oh my God, he must have been feeling this, and this was the feeling he was feeling of this like so much pressure, and every breath was so hard. And I'm active. I'm a doula. I'm a yoga teacher. I practice breathing. So I was like, this is really weird. And for this to start happening this time. And then I was like, oh, this is him showing me what it feels like.
And you're empathic. So that's a big part.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't.
And that's one of the cards that I pulled for you. Well, I pulled the card for you from his energy, and the first one was, I communicate with you by sending physical sensation of tingling and chills. So that means he communicates your feelings. That's what that means.
Yeah.
Kind of affirming it.
And then today was just like we thought that we were going to go through an IUI at the fertility clinic. And as of this morning, I was. But I was having a lot of holding back in myself and feeling like it wasn't right. And when I went for our first scan at the fertility clinic, I got in the shower and I heard wait. And then I freaked out, and I was like, I have a hard time distinguishing fear and intuition. And I couldn't figure out whether it was the fear that wanted me to wait or if it was my intuition. But every time I went to the fertility clinic, came a lot of anxiety, which I'm sure is just going to be part of that process now.
Yeah, it is.
But I had somebody tell me today that they didn't think I should do it and they weren't hopeful for this month. And I was like, you know what? I think I just needed to hear somebody else reiterate that. And so I called a fertility clinic and put our IUI on pause. But I actually think it was kismet because the other part to that story is that we ran out of the vials of sperm that are connected to my son, and the vial of sperm that I got pregnant with Lyric didn't have the right sperm count, and so the clinic had to credit us a vial of sperm. So the universe, because we said that after the 8 vials that we had, we were done. Like whether we had however many kids it was, like that was what we were meant to have. And then I felt like, oh my God, the universe granted us another try. And then there's no more from the same donor. And I was like, oh my God, that's when it clicked on me that you were like, you and the donor don't vibe. I think there's something off between you and the donor. And I was like, now we have this opportunity to try somebody else. But I just feel like there was a lot of weight riding on this, and I wanted to feel really good in my body. I didn't want to feel like I'm pressing on the brakes while going in. But another weird thing happened that years ago, I talked to a friend of ours who was debating helping a different lesbian couple become parents. And we had this very long conversation, and I told him how that gifting a family is like the best gift that you can have. And we hadn't talked in years, and he reached out to say that from our conversation, he became an FDA-approved sperm donor. And he heard our story about losing Lyric and wanted to help us. And I reached out to him to say, like, I put the IUI on hold at the clinic because I wasn't feeling good about the timing. And he's like, well, I'm around. How about I just drive up and I can give you deposits and syringes. And if it's meant to be, it will work out. So that's what we're going to try in the next few days.
Wow.
And for some reason,
Look at
right?
that.
And this all happened today. All of this alignment just happened today.
You're like, okay, and then that's wild. And how you emailed me yesterday was it was a late response, and then I was like, yep, we're here. It's like, oh, what's happening? There's so much unknown, but known is like surfacing, right? Yeah, I don't remember what I said to you about the sperm, but I'm sure it's something. But that does come up a lot, by the way, and this has been coming up a lot. We've even talked about this in the Spirit Baby Academy with some of the Spirit Baby intuitives. We don't ever really talk about sperm and that connection and how it's always the woman and her egg, and that's really powerful. And it sounds like you're kind of releasing into what's next, but then you're pulling back and releasing. You're like, wait, what's happening? But it's like almost like you're just kind of listening without that mental part getting in the way,
Trying. I didn't, honestly, not even trying. Today was just like, this doesn't feel right, so I'm not going here right now. Like, I'll go there when, it feels better flow, and all of a sudden, something that flows, I feel like I stepped into the flow. And something feels good about, and I'm like, there's no, what I was talking to my wife about is we go and try with our friends. If it doesn't work, we didn't just, every time you step into the fertility clinic, we're looking at thousands of dollars, there's no harm right here. And something just feels easy and natural. And if we need to go the fertility route, we can, but I want to feel aligned with it. So, I drew my Spirit Baby card this morning, and it was like meditate, and I meditated, and it told me to call the fertility clinic and see if I can pause, and I was like, okay. And then I got the email from you, and I'm like, how is this all happening?
Wow. I love when that stuff happens. I mean, yeah, like it's interesting when you say that because sometimes I mean, I don't know, like I'm just kind of going with energy, but I feel things in emails when I get them. And sometimes I feel like a little tap, like, hello, and I'm like, oh, that feels different. Let me just, respond to it. Like that's what we're kind of, I've attuned myself to a certain way. Like I go, oh, and then sometimes I get emails, and then I'm like, oh, there's no charge to it. There's no energy. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But it was funny because again, I think that I felt like you emailed me like before I don't know. It was like, but yeah, I love that you're sharing this story because it really, I feel like it's helpful because I know a lot of people that tune in that have been in loss, multiple loss, or even just that intuitive spiritual connection on the journey. It's like, by the way you share, it's like there's no like definitive lines, right? It's like it's flowing, it's a movement, and that's what really intuition is about. It's like just kind of going with it and listening and seeing instead of. But I do feel like that takes embodiment, right? It takes like okay, and there's no perfection in embodiment, but just that slow down, and that awareness.
And I love so I've taken several drop-in classes with you. And where you have, and I've also come to any workshop that you offer for free. I'm like, sign me up. Let me just sit here. But like, you always start with that like embodiment practice and like taking in your surroundings and slowing down and ground. It's a grounding practice because I feel like for my energy in particular, I'm very in the higher orbs and like kind of floaty, and my wife is groundy, so she grounds me. So that little practice has been so helpful, and in that you gifted and shared with us has helped me step into that flow better.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's a big thing is the embodiment. I feel like, spirit baby medium somatic psychologist over here. It's kind of like, what does that even mean? Like, I'm all about putting weird things together, like pineapple and pizza. But they work.
They work.
Yeah, I do feel like, it's easy to get into one side or another, but the embodiment piece is huge for even the expression of grief. I mean, this is what we're talking about with Danny and you, like the grief energy that comes up and then still going, okay, what's the next part? Because as we know, there's no finish line to grieving. It's ongoing and it's just always, but I do feel like that embodiment stuff, staying in the community of when it wants to come up and when it wants to be there. And I even noticed, I would say 2 days ago, I started feeling a lot of grief. I'm like, oh, there it is. And it's interesting that we're here now, and you both have your own, so I'm like, wow, like I'm even going in my mind, like, what is, we've been, like the past few days and then we're sitting here together and I'm going, oh, look we're all kind of resonating in this grief space in different ways, really. And it makes me curious, this is where I like to bring awareness to, it's like, I call myself a timeline traveler. So like a few days before, I'm like, what is my feelings and what am I attracting or building and what's that connection? Observation, I guess.
And the grief aspect, we went and two days ago, Kelly, we went and released my son's ashes at Minnewaska State Park, which is our local state park that we visit about weekly with my son. And so I was like, this is a really beautiful place to release his ashes. And I had we had like it's a 1.5 mile little loop, and I talked to our spirit baby son the whole way. And I was just saying, just because, we're releasing your ashes doesn't mean we're releasing any love for you. But we're letting your physical body return back to Mother Earth. And then, just talk to him about how much we love him and how, we're hoping that he'll escort a baby being who wants to join us on Earth plane, And they asked him for that help. Yeah. But it's like that grief is, he's always going to walk with me. Like I know that he's always here. And people, I feel like sometimes say the silliest things, like, and I know this out of love and from a good spot, but I hate when they say, oh, like time will heal it. And I'm like, oh, I don't think so. But time just makes it, I figured out how to carry my grief in a different way.
Yeah, I like that. And people do say time heals, but I always say it's not time that heals, it's transformation along the path that really heals, because I've seen people caught in old past traumatic energies like it was yesterday. So if we're not listening and loving ourselves enough to heal whatever those parts are. So I totally get what you're saying, is that, yeah, the loss of a child that stays with people forever. Why would it not? And yet, you're holding, of course, expanding into, the next path of where the energy is guiding. And did you say his name is Lyric? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, Lyric.
Lyric.
Like,
when you
song,
spoke about him, his energy got so strong around you. He's very talkative. Like, I've got so much to share with my mom. But he really was forcing me to tell you this. Eagle, tell her about eagle. I'm like, okay.
Oh.
So keep an eye out for whatever that means. There's some eagle when you talk about the park and everything, and he was just like, not that I don't know if you may see one in person, who knows, but there's something in that. There's something. And there's more. Let's see. Another card I pulled for you connected with his energy was Stop, Breathe, Let Go. I'm sending you the gentleness, calm, and ease you need. Which I'm sure you've seen that card in the deck. Yeah, yeah. You're like, oh wait, I'm going to breathe right now.
I love the deck. The deck has been such a daily little present. I cleanse it, I meditate, and I just pull one for the day. And I love, I'm always like laughing because I'm like, how are they so on point? It's like the day when the robins started, like the 20 robins started to like decide to like live on our yard. It's like, I talked you through animals. I was like, of course you do.
Yeah. I know. I do get that. We do get that. Sometimes even I love when I do a 7-week course, right? And then some of the ladies get the same card every week. I'm like, all right already. Like I said, I swear, mix the deck. I'm not making this up. Like, this is all you guys. Like, but it's really amazing when we're even in the live, when we get the live workshop, or we see the consistency with the cards. And then everybody's like, all right, baby, I get it. You want me to write? Okay, you've said this to me like 20 times. And then I go, well, are you writing? And they're like, not really. but I'll get to it. But I'm like, hey, well, that's going to keep coming up then, because there's a message of energy in there. There's an expression. There's an exchange, even if it's not for just baby, but it's for you to get to that next space that you're like asking for, right? And it can feel like riddles at times, but what I've learned about the psychic energy and what I've taught at the university, the academy, I should say, what I've taught a lot around was, it's a language. It's an energetic language, and just like math is a language, just like Mandarin is a language, sign language is a language, they all use different things to understand that language, and this is just a credible and honest language just as any other one is, but we do have to be open to then understand how to receive it. And it's not perfect. It's kind of like, I'm sure people that know math as a language and sign language, I'm sure they mess up in their math equations, and I'm sure even, right? Think about it. Or even with hand signs, you must mess up. And so just like the language of energy, you're going to mess up sometimes. Like, I consider myself supernatural every single day, all the time. And yeah, I do have a lot of things happen around me, and I'm aware of it. And I built that relationship like that, and I hear things before they happen. And sometimes I don't know. I'm like, sometimes it's stuff that's not even cool. People are like, oh, that's cool. Like, you see something. I'm like, no, I was on a hike once with a bunch of friends, and I said, hey, there could be tarantulas out here today. Like, why would I say that? I never even see them. And then 2 seconds later, we see one walking on the path in front of us, and everyone starts screaming, oh, a spider. And then they're like, wait, you just said that. And I was like, yeah, because I'm a time traveler, apparently. And sometimes I don't know it. It's like, I don't know. It's not like fun or cool. It wasn't in danger. There was no big premonition around it. My point is, we're always in these timeline travels, and it may not be always really big prophetic things like I feel like we're taught, but that we have access to literally different levels of our own awareness and what I call time, just different timeline energies that we have to bring in the space of trust with it and actually being with it, even when it on its own doesn't even have a language. You may not even be able to articulate it. You know what I mean? I feel like maybe Danny and Jackie, you've had that happen before where you're like, I can't articulate this, but it's real.
Well, it's like, I mean, like intrinsically my body was shut down to this attempting of a cycle this morning. And like the shift and changes, my wife looked at me, she's like, are you sure you want to try now? She's like, you were so against it. And I was like, but it's different now, right? Like we shifted our change and for some reason,
And you're allowed to do that. You say something so important, and this is another thing with intuitive connection, is that you may have a feeling or you're not sure, or it could be a little bit of fear mixed in there, and you're like, I'm doing this, I'm going this, and everyone's like, yay, and then you're like, hours later, oh, it's going, what? Yay? I don't know. It's like, it's okay to like change your mind. It's okay to like shift it up. Yes, it's okay. Because I feel like we get caught going, no, but I said I would do this, right? And then even with fertility support, it's like IUI, IVF, it's like, oh, but I said I was going to do this and this is the plan. But it's like, oh, well, plans change. They have to.
And I'm such a Taurus and an A-type that I like to stick to plans that I feel like that runs into my intuition sometimes. Like they battle each other and then create anxiety for me. But
Danny, are you still there? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still here.
Oh, okay. Just I was like calling your name out. I didn't want to feel like I wanted to include you in the conversation if you felt called to join into it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I feel like we're coming more over the end. I really enjoyed talking to everybody, even though it was such a really heartache, really big conversation to have. And I want to thank you both for really being here and showing up with your hearts and your story, because I do feel like stories are important. And I've been wanting to do more stories, but of course it has to be the right energy, the right time, the right moment. But I feel like it helps us all. It really does on such deep levels to open and transform our own hearts, to just, to move into deeper spaces of compassion and love, and to be of support along the way. And so I know those that are tuning in, if you're on a birth loss, we'll call it a birth loss journey, because it is a journey with many different parts, that you are, holding wherever you're at and healing however you need. Any final words that you ladies would like to share?
I want to really thank you, Kelly, for doing this podcast, for serving all of us. It really, you have created several beautiful spaces for all of us to go and heal and grieve and just experience all the ranges of emotions. And I've met some amazing moms that they help me out, and as you did too. And I craved having a conversation with you, and I was so happy to see you needed volunteers. And I thank you for the space from the bottom of my heart. I really thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here and sharing.
Yeah, I second that. Thank you for creating a safe space for a community. So many different little aspects, I feel like, that you've added, and just guiding us on how to actually be more intuitive on our own journey. Like, stepping in that we all have this ability to actually connect with our, babies on the other side. stepping into feeling and sensing and learning to not to second guess ourselves. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was like, oh, this beautiful love and thanks. I was expecting that. Thank you for sharing and being here as well. And I'm going to kind of close us out in a bit here and stay on the line, everybody. So just so you know, I want you to stay on the line for a minute. Mm-hmm. And again, those wherever you are on your journey of healing, birth, loss, to conception, you can do it. You are doing it. You are listening. You are intuitive. You are psychic. You are in spirit baby love relationship. And I want to thank you for joining episode 148, Real Stories and Experiences with Spirit Baby Communication, Conversations of the Heart. And if you like my podcast, please subscribe, leave reviews, and you can join my newsletter for a meditation on soul communication, or I think it's actually a video now. A video. You can check out my book, A Journal, Sacred Communication, a Spirit Baby Journal for Conception and Pregnancy, and of course, Spirit Baby Oracle Cards, Soul Answers from Spirit Baby.
This is Spirit Baby Radio. Thank you for joining Kelly in the energy of awareness, love, healing, and soul communication. Please join the next episode at www.soulbabycommunication.com.